Well, friends and neighbors, welcome back to another version and another session of No Filter Media. I'm Sly James, co-founder of Wickham James Strategies and Solutions. I'm here with my good friend, business partner, Joni Wickham. But we come to you frequently with different topics on different subjects because we are no filter and because we're not married to any given subject. But I do want to tell you that I am an older gentleman, grandfatherly age, with two great grandkids, written a couple of books, The Passion for Purpose, an autobiographical type tome, and what's the other one?
Opportunity Agenda.
Oh, The Opportunity Agenda.
What would you do without me?
I don't know. That's been a question on my mind for a long time, which is why you're probably still here. Haven't been able to figure it out. Can't figure out what to do without Joni. But A Passion for Purpose, a bold democratic plan to raise the middle class. We're here today to talk to you, and I'll let Joni introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joni Wickham, co-founder of Wickham James Strategies and Solutions, and was Sly's chief of staff when he was mayor of Kansas City. And I am a mom to a most of the time, except in the mornings from approximately 7:30 to 8:15, really cute little girl, wife to a rock star husband.
True enough.
Yeah, remind me to tell you, I think we might go to Europe for a little tour.
Oh.
He's getting a lot of play in Europe.
Well,
I might take you with me.
Considering how you complain about going on other tours, I'm wondering why you're not complaining about going on that one.
Because it's Europe. Anyway, that's a different story. And yeah, so we are here today talking about something that is a bit disturbing in the news, as we sometimes talk about, and that is this idea that we now are going to have books that are banned from schools and public discourse. Yeah, Sly, what do you think about this BS?
Well, it takes me back to other book bannings, the book burnings during Nazi Germany. I don't want to get into this big cancer culture debate because for me it's a bunch of nonsense on both sides, to be real honest. At the end of the day, the concept of banning books is about as reprehensible and antagonistic as I think you can get. And I think it's especially true when you look at the books that are being banned and why. A lot of them are LGBT, a lot of them are by people of color, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, parents have started to take over what kids are being taught. Now, nobody was standing around telling my teachers I couldn't read To Kill a Mockingbird or As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner or any of the books that I read. And even though I didn't like reading some of them, every one of them brought something different. The idea of books is to present different points of view about various issues of life or fantasy or whatever the case may be. It opens up your mind. You still have the ability to choose what you believe. And frankly, the books that I read didn't always have an impact on what I actually believed. It gave me some insights, gave me some alternatives, but didn't have that big of an impact most of the time. But now, because these books deal with controversial subjects about sexuality and about race, parents are all of a sudden critics and educators, neither of which they've been trained for.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to an issue that we talked about on a previous podcast episode, this assumption that we are all experts on everything all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you're a parent, you've had kids go through school. I'm a parent, I have a kid in school. I am not an expert on everything, which is why I want her to be exposed to things so that she learns different viewpoints, different perspectives, just different facts that I am not an expert to relay to her. And so I don't understand why some parents out there, and you're talking about this article where 50% of these challenges that are initiated, where these books are banned, 50% of those instances are initiated by parents.
Yeah.
And it's troubling, to say the least, because it gives you a glimpse into what that child's life is like. I would assume that they are being taught that the world works a certain way according to the lens through which their families their parents views the world. And you and I both know that's probably not an accurate viewpoint. And those kids in those environments are probably not getting a very holistic view of the world.
No, I think the whole reason for doing the book banning thing is to perpetuate your own beliefs and to avoid having your children exposed to anything different than those. Why would you want to ban books regarding the racial history of this country or the experiences of LGBT people? Who does it actually help? Do you think if your child reads a book by someone who's gay, they're going to become gay? No, they either are or they aren't. It's not a socialization thing. It's a genetics thing. What's going to happen, however, is they will remain ignorant, and I mean ignorant in the definitional sense of the word, about what gay means. If you think that having your kids not read about the racial history of this country is going to teach them that, yeah, the Indians were bad people and slaves were here as tourists and doing the work that they wanted to do, and they were better off here than in Africa, then I imagine that helps perpetuate the nonsense that you were raised with. What it seems to me is that the book banning issue is a deeper issue that I think is being felt across all parts of society, which is those people who have held power for an extended period of time don't want to give it up. They don't want to share it. They look at life as a zero-sum game. If I give up this idea, then I lose and the other person wins, when it's not that at all.
Yeah, and it inhibits the flow of ideas and the exchange of information. And that means, to your point, that people who have been in power, groups that have been in power, stay in power. Yeah, and it's also unsettling because where does it end? If we're going to be talking about in the year 2022 banning To Kill a Mockingbird, where the hell are we going to be in 2 years when we have another election? What are we going to be banning?
Banning To Kill a Mockingbird of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, for God's sakes. Yeah. I mean, what are we talking about here? You know, I don't understand what people could be upset about neither of those books, to be quite honest with you, particularly To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is a story about a white lawyer in the South defending a black man accused of rape before an all-white jury and how he did it. That's historically accurate without necessarily using those same characters and in the place. The problem I've got is that why don't you want kids to read that? What's the problem there? Is it that you don't believe that black men in the South should be defended against criminal attacks or charges? Or is it that you believe that somehow the way the book ended with the comments about how people reacted to this black man in that community are upsetting? I don't understand why that is. You know, we are ignorant in this country about how this country came into being. Whenever there's a discussion about the American Revolution, it's about people in red coats and wigs riding on horses and killing the bad guys that are British. The rest of it is left out. And kids don't understand it because they're not being taught it, because the books are whitewashed, literally. Mm-hmm. And the whole issue of slavery has been whitewashed and not taught, and which leads to more racism and misunderstandings on a racial level. The issues about gay folks in this country are being excluded from the curriculum so that people have those same hostile feelings about gay people without even knowing who they are as real people. That to me is the most disturbing part. We are becoming more autocratic, and that is the antithesis of democracy.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that a lot of the same people who want to ban these books are the first ones to talk about freedom, liberty. You know, it's...
Well, the one thing that I've always learned is that I don't want to learn about religion from people who knock on my door talking to me about religion. I don't, you know. I will listen to them sometimes. Used to infuriate Alicia when we Oh, seriously, there would be people knocking on the door when we lived in Minneapolis, and Alicia would just basically tell them to go away. I would have them come in and sit, and then we'd have a conversation, and I'd talk to them and ask them some questions that they couldn't answer to my satisfaction, but it was worth having the conversation. At least I understood what they were talking about and why they did it. But the bottom line is that some of the most hypocritical people are the ones who talk the most about it.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah.
If everybody who says they're Christian would act as true Christians, then we wouldn't have some of the crap we got going on now.
You mean care about poor people? Actually care about poor people like Jesus did?
Care about the people who have been ostracized by society. Washing the feet of the people who nobody else cares about. Reaching out to the whores like Mary Magdalene and taking care of her, bringing her into the ambit without judgment. Doing those things would be great. But then again, we only know about those things because we read about them in a book.
Yeah.
I wonder. I've seen no attempts to ban the Bible.
Oh no.
No.
You want no.
So when you talk about banning books because of issues of race and gay and everything else, I guess there's really no problem with leaving a book that's really totally violent. People getting their heads chopped off, crucified, all sorts of different things. I don't see a reason to ban the Bible. I don't see a reason to ban Of Mice and Men, and I don't see a reason to ban To Kill a Mockingbird.
Of Mice and Men, is that really on the list? I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, it's
That's
one of the
insane.
books on the list. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, one of the greatest American authors of all time. Banning books, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Anything by Ta-Nehisi Coates has been banned by people. What's really interesting is that there are now groups that are rising up to fight it, and making books that have been banned available to people so that they can read it.
Crazy. Have you heard of this? This is a few years old, but what you were just saying reminded me of it. This book that John Oliver did about Marlon Bundo, Mike Pence's rabbit.
No.
Oh, okay. So this may not be 100% accurate. I'm going off what I remember of this book, reading it a couple years ago to Viv. So John Oliver did this book based on Mike Pence's rabbit, and you know how Mike Pence feels about our gay friends.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And
I know how Mike Pence feels about being in a room with a woman.
I know, God forbid. God forbid. Anyway, so this book that John Oliver did is all about a day in the life of Marlon Bundo, and it takes him on this journey of like finding love. And Marlon Bundo is gay,
A gay rabbit.
yeah, and I think he had a bow tie on, if I remember correctly. It is hilarious. It is amazing, and of course, when it first came out, they wanted to ban the book.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Of course. Why wouldn't they? It shows. It says something about Mike Pence, and they don't want that. That's the problem. I think is that, and I guess to some extent we're all a little guilty of it, but we are very, very, very unwilling to look at ourselves critically and see that we have flaws and problems and to try to overcome them. We want everything to be as we think it should be, not as it is. And we don't have any great appetite for teaching people about the way things actually are. We want them to think about the way that we want them to think about it. That all the bad that's happened in this country somehow makes this a less country. It doesn't. It simply means that it is a country of people. We've done some great, tremendous things, and we still are. And we've done some things that we should be saying, if we had a do-over, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But people don't want to look at it that way. They don't want to look at history. They want to look at memories, and they want to look at their memories particularly.
Yeah, and I guess for some folks, it makes them feel inferior if their perspective and their memories are viewed right or wrong as less than perfect.
Yeah, I also think it makes people feel insecure and embarrassed when they actually sit and say, did we really do that?
Yeah, or did we think that? Was it okay to say that?
Yeah,
or do
did
that?
we really wipe out a whole group of people who were here before us and confine them to little patches of barren land where they still live today and then don't do anything for them? Are we still really doing that? Is that the right thing to do? Because we have this stylized version of who we are, that America is the greatest country in the world, and it is, and that we've done no wrong and could do no wrong, and that's a lie. You can be great and flawed simultaneously. Nobody is perfect. No country is perfect. It's a matter of being better and getting and remaining better. But if you stop looking at what you've done wrong, then you have no incentive to do better. And right now, we're not doing better at much.
Yeah.
We're doing better at being hostile to each other. That's for sure.
Yeah. I actually read something on Twitter this weekend that I agreed with.
Well, first of all, what were you doing on Twitter since you spend so little time there?
I know. I think I was looking. I don't know why I was there. Anyway, okay. So here is an interesting statement that I read on Twitter. Education isn't memorizing that Hitler killed 6 million Jews. Education is understanding how millions of ordinary Germans were convinced that it was required. Real education is learning how to spot the signs of history repeating itself. We must never forget what hate does to us.
Well, and then there's this whole thing about there wasn't really a Holocaust.
Oh, Jesus, I know.
I mean, seriously, there are people out there teaching that crap, and there are kids who believe it. You know, it's hard enough when you say to some kid, some teenager, some millennial, hey, what do you think about the Beatles? And they say, who? But then when you're trying to teach them about things like the Holocaust or slavery, what we did to the Native Americans, how this country was born, the cruelties that we perpetrated, and how we actually grew from it but never have come face to face with it and confronted it as part of who we are, we don't need people out there saying that things that we know happened didn't happen. And then having other people enforce that by saying, and you can't read about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't care who you are or where you are. If you grow up in a falsehood, you will live in a falsehood, you will die in a falsehood, and falsehoods never help.
Right. It definitely doesn't help make the country and the world around us stronger. That's for sure.
Well, we should be trying to figure out ways to understand each other, and banning books about each other doesn't help us understand. We should be understanding, too, about it's not just that the parents are getting books banned and other people are getting books banned. It's that the education system is allowing it to happen and participating in it. When you have school boards who on their own do it under the guise of critical race theory, which they couldn't define if you hit them in the face with it, and under all these other things, when you have school boards doing that, what does it say about what we are teaching our kids? What is the purpose of education? Is the purpose of education learning how to take a test so that you can get into college to make a job, get a job? Or is the purpose of education learning about who you are, the world that we live in, the issues that are in it, finding solutions to it, how to apply science and math and learning and literature and all of the sciences and all of the arts in order to make things better for people on this earth? That's what I thought education was about. And if that's true, then banning stuff doesn't get us there.
Yeah, it doesn't. I am embarrassed to admit I was in my late 20s, God, maybe early 30s, before I was able to read or even knew that there were things out there to read to learn the true history of this country.
Yeah.
Where I grew up, our textbooks didn't say anything bad about Sir Walter Raleigh or that's not what we were taught.
No, we were taught what was necessary for us to have the image of this country that people wanted us to have. We've had this idea that we can do no wrong, and somehow if we admit that we have done wrong, that we are lesser than. It's not a matter of being lesser than. You have to look at a country just like you look at a child. We make mistakes as we are young. We should be able to appreciate those mistakes, learn from them, and grow out of them as we age. Right now, we're making the same mistakes and some of the same mistakes now that we were making when before we were actually even a country. Same crap, just in a different package.
Well, and with this whole book situation we've been talking about, we're following in the footsteps of, let's just tick through some of the countries that I can think of off the top of my head that have done this. Russia,
right?
Iran,
yes.
Syria,
yeah.
China. Is that
yeah.
where we want to be? Like, you're the company you keep.
Well, somehow we think that's another thing that's really bad. And frankly, that's one of the problems with not actually having read and understood history, is that we somehow think that this country is immune to the same things that have toppled other democracies and countries in this world. We are not immune. Just because we're Americans don't mean that we can't catch the same ignorant bug.
That's true.
We caught COVID from China. We can catch ignorance from China, Russia, Iran, Germany. We can catch all that.
Or from each other.
And here's one of those things that's really somewhat interesting. Germany has approached its failures in a different way.
Yeah, much different. Yeah.
Much different. Now, they still got their ignorant people over there. Ain't no doubt about it. They're people on the far right. But Germany owned up to what it did, and they have moved on because they've owned it. We don't own what we do, so we always want to argue about it. And we have an argument with anybody who says, well, yeah, but that was out. And then when you hear people tell me about gay people choose, that means you don't know any, and that Africans were better off in this country being slaves than they were in Africa. That means you've never been to Africa, don't know any real Africans. You just have this idea that somehow this country is so great that it's okay to be put in a ship, in the bottom of a ship, crowded, put 200 people in space for 100, half of them die, chained, beaten, separated from your family, and forced to work for nothing, and killed if you didn't. Somehow that's okay.
Yeah.
None of those things are okay. And people here today shouldn't be blamed for it, except to the extent that they perpetuate it. And banning books, saying you can't read or think about certain things, is perpetuating those myths.
It is, indeed.
Now, we could talk about, too, it's not just about race and whether or not you're gay. They do the same thing with women. I mean, it's been done. The whole stylized versions and pictures of women throughout the ages has changed and is changing. But there's still people who cling on to that. You should be barefoot, pregnant, in the house, and dinner should be on the table when I get home and I get the big piece of chicken.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
I do want the big piece of chicken, though.
I know.
Just because I like chicken, got nothing to do with the other stuff.
Okay, folks, that's our episode for today. Make sure you tell us on our social media channels what you think.
Thank you, and reach out to us if you have anything for us. That's Wickham James Strategies and Solutions. Check out our website. Stay in touch and have a great day.